Hey everybody. So I just wanted to go ahead and talk a little bit about this whole Roe v. Wade decision that came out 2 weeks ago. And I wouldn't say I'm at a loss for words, but I'm also not surprised. For a lot of us that have been on this earth, we've known that this was going to happen, okay? That that the Republican Party and the conservatives were going to go after Roe v. Wade. They've been doing this for years. This is not something that should not be a shock or should not have been a shock to anybody. Um, but the fact that you know that it happened, it finally happened. They've accomplished it. You know, it's really just at a loss. Well, I would say I am at a loss for words, but then again, I'm not so really surprised. I mean, the Republicans have been and conservatives have been fighting, Roe v. Wade for the last 50 years almost. Okay, but I want to talk real quick about how this whole thing came about. But we already should know how it came about. This was after the decision came out in 1973. This was, this was elated freedom for women to, have rights to their own body and for them not to say no. That's what Roe versus Wade is about. It's not just about, having a safe medical, not only having a safe means to a medical procedure, option. It's also about, having to be able to say, this is my body, this is, and I have every right. But, um, but the Republicans, and I will say this is the one thing I admire about the Republicans. They will get their shit together and will come together and fight. Unlike the Democrats who will stand there at the podium and posture and wave like beauty queens in a parade. That's all these guys. That's all. It's just totally ridiculous, and it's why I constantly talk about we need a viable third party because the two parties that we have right now are a damn joke. Um, they've pretty much melded into one. It's just that one does more work than the other to go ahead and get the things accomplished. And it's just totally disgusting. But we do need a viable third party. And this is why, or one of the reasons why, and I'll talk about that later. But the big thing that people have forgotten about that Roe v. Wade is that the Republicans started working on it. You know, right after the decision came out, they didn't hesitate to go ahead and brainstorm ideas and to think about who they were going to get to go ahead and do anything about it. So a lot of people started, branching out and trying to figure out ideas. And one of the biggest ideas that came about was, of course, talking to talking to Christians. Um, and in the Christian community at that time, you had the Oral Roberts, you had the Jared Falwells that were huge, that would get like hundreds of thousands or even millions of viewers on their programs when they would air, and it's a huge, you know, it's pretty huge to go ahead and get those and tap into that. But you also had the Catholic Church who was vehemently at the time against abortion, um, and you had these two come together. The differences that they had were completely gone. Okay, uh, you had all that power, and you had the most powerful man in church, Pope, uh, speak out about it, and all the money that both sides had. You know, of course, they went ahead and went to work in doing what they wanted and doing what they needed to do. Now, at the time, you also had a lot going on behind the scenes where where Republicans were working really hard and trying to find, again, they were working on ideas. They were trying to have lobbyists go out there and get candidates or get elected officials to go ahead and sway their decision on Roe versus Wade. And this was pretty much practice to what they're capable of doing now. Okay, now you also have to fast forward a little bit, let's say to the late '90s, but through the '90s, pretty much you had Bill Clinton who had a supermajority. Okay, pretty much he could have gotten things done, but he didn't. Okay, and that's what was really disappointing when he was asked about, uh, being pro-choice or being pro-life, and on that topic, but it wasn't of great importance in anywhere, and it became that was a mouthpiece for many of the Democrats, and during that time, and it still is to this day. Uh, they'll talk about a woman's body is her body, but that's not really answering yes or no to it. Uh, some of them will actually come out and answer yes or no, but for the most part, you're not going to get a lot of them to go ahead and say that they agree or disagree. They're going to give you a long way around. But anyway, you had also in the late '90s the formation of a couple organizations. ALEC was one that came out, and you also had the Heritage Foundation. Now these were two foundations that were more or less religious based, but they were also conservative. Okay, they were conservative, but you also had the backing of a lot of Christian money that was funneled into those organizations, as well as money from different corporations that came in. But these guys, I mean, they worked the whole thing. They believed in what was right to babies being born, and they pushed that message out there. They really did, and they kept it going, and they kept talking about it. Again, these Republicans, man, they had their shit together, and they had a plan, and they went through with that plan. And you speed up now to what they did. I mean, they elected the right, despicable, hateful officials. They got them in office, and then when Trump got in, that was the icing on the cake. He said what he was going to say, and it wasn't like it was a huge plan, like it was a huge secret. Excuse me. It was already out there. It had been out there for years, and people just decided and the Democrats just decided to turn it on the left. I don't know if the Republicans made them shit themselves or what, but the Democrats did absolutely nothing. Still did absolutely nothing, and look at where we're at today. All right. Now, the other thing that really disgusts me about this whole situation that I will talk about is the fact that the Democratic Party had the nerve to send me. I got 6 text messages while I was away. Right after this decision came out, I got 6 of them, and one of them was from Nancy Pelosi and from other candidates. And I'm gonna tell you something right now. That is probably the most stomach churning thing I have ever seen, because this is my thing. You have been in office for all these years. Okay, Joe Biden has been in office for about 50. Has been an elected official for 50 years. All right, and he did absolutely nothing. But he was quick to go ahead and do the 3 strikes law, right? And how he wants to defund Medicaid, Medicare, and Social Security. He doesn't care anything about that, but he was quick to do that 3 strikes law, right? Nancy Pelosi, she's been in office for at least 2 decades. What the hell did she do? This is what Jim Clyburn, excuse me, another one that's been in there for over 2.5 decades. What did you do, brother? You did absolutely nothing. And the fact that this decision has been overturned shows that the Democrats are absolutely what they are. They are nothing. The fact that not long after the decision, you sent me a text message to send you $15 to help fight. Where the fuck were you when this shit went down? Why weren't you doing anything? Why didn't you make this a law? You've got now this shit left up to states who overwhelmingly are doing absolutely everything they can to revoke Roe versus Wade, where people gotta literally hide. But you guys want money. The Democrats want fucking money to fight. What did you do before? I mean, now Clarence Thomas is, got this whole thing where he's talking about ready to roll back all the civil rights. He's ready to talk about, rolling back gay marriage. Talking about rolling back interracial marriage, which is really strange because he's married to a white woman. But we don't really call his marriage interracial. He's what I would call an Oreo, but he's a really thin chocolate on the outside, but he's double stuffed white on the inside. Believe me, that brother is totally, that's what he is. A true double stuffed Oreo. But to sit there and to send out money or to ask for money and not do anything, this is where employers who, if these people were actually in the workforce outside, they would be fired from their job. They wouldn't have a job. Okay? Because there's nothing productive getting done. Why do the people keep putting these idiots back in office? They're not doing anything. They're not doing anything productive. Except standing at the podium and waving and wanting to recite poetry. Wanting to sing God Bless America at the steps of the Supreme Court. These people are doing nothing, have done nothing, don't want to do anything except be beholden to just power and greed. That's it. They have committed themselves to power and greed. Okay? It's time to get some real damn people in office. This is why we need to go ahead and have more voting participation in the primaries and not just the generals. Because the primaries is where we go ahead and vote for actually viable candidates. Candidates that's going to do something. Not for candidates that sit there in suits and try and sell themselves out so they can be, deemed worthy to go ahead and be on a ballot. When they're not serving our interest, they're serving corporate interest. They're serving somebody else's interest, is what it is. They're not doing a damn thing up for us and never will do a damn thing for us. We need people who have boots on the ground, that have been out here in this struggle. And that's who we need. Stop putting the suits and start putting in boots that have done the work. Okay? That's all there is to it. Stop putting in these lying-ass, milquetoast, sorry-ass people that do absolutely nothing. Absolutely no, and have done nothing. Welcome to America, people. You guys stay safe.